Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. My guest this week is the wickedly naughty David Dale. We talk about his role in one of the biggest television programmes of the 80s, his thoughts on Drag Race, and how making dolls changed his life. It's a very moving and open interview, and I would like to thank David for being so honest and entertaining. Now, the only thing about this episode is there are a couple of naughty word apologies, but I've kept them in because they are quite funny. Also, please don't forget to check out David's doll creations on his Facebook page. They're absolutely stunning. So please, sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. My guest for today's Panto podcast is David Dale. Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello. So, we've been chatting away for a good hour.
We have to. We didn't record any of it, did we?
Well, some of it was libelous. So.
I know, it certainly was, but all true, I might add.
So, when did you actually first kind of experience performance?
In what age, do you mean?
As a child, did you go and see many performances? Did you want...
You mean pantos?
Just performance in general.
Because I've been showing off since I was 3. I mean, when my mum used to put me in front of our relations when they'd come round at Christmas, and I would be forced to sing a song, and it was always it was always Hernando's Hideaway for the pyjama game. I don't know what. I know, a dark, secluded place. I did all the actions and everything, and I was like Thor or something stupid. And then I was always obsessed as a kid with pantomime and puppets. I'd always put puppet shows on in my garden with the neighbours, and I would charge 5p for people to come and watch a puppet show, and then I'd go away, take all my puppets, redress them, do another pantomime with puppets, and then go around again asking for people to come and see a new show for 5 pence. I was very lucrative. But that's as far back as I can remember. And when I was 17, and then I did a lot of amateur dramatics when I was a kid, and lots of I was one of those precocious kids in the front row of a Panto Babes. I was one of those, I'm the only boy as well. There's always only one boy, isn't there, in these babe companies. And so I've been performing since as far back as I can remember. And I was in the movie of Oliver as a kid, Scrooge, Bugsy Malone. I did a lot of those sort of things. And then in the early 80s, I did a lot of TV commercials, 70s rather. One with Patsy Kensit, with the peas. I did that. And then when I was 16, I started doing drag because I hated drums. I went to drama school and hated it and walked out. And I thought the only way of getting my foot in the door as a performer, because I never wanted to be a drag artist, I wanted to be an actor, was to do drag. Because at that age, I was living in London, because I'm from Southend in Essex, and I was living in London and I desperately wanted to perform, and I didn't really care what it was. It could have been anything. But it just so happened that this venue I entered a competition for drag artists, and I'd never done it before, and I went in and I won it. And part of the fee was a year's gigs in this one venue. So I sort of threw myself in it. Before you knew it, I was doing drag, and then one thing led to another, and So in answer to your question you asked me an hour ago, I was very young when I started, and I'm still performing now, and I'm 60 now. So I've never been out of work as a performer either. I've always worked. So that's really, really good. I love it. So it's all I know, really. So I don't really have a choice.
Were you like that at school then? Were you sort of class clowning?
I was a class homo. I was always picked on for being... I went to a boys' school, and I was always picked on for being very camp and very theatrical and very... all the other boys did like woodwork and metalwork, and I refused to do it because I had no interest. And I remember running home from school always saying to my mum, I'm not doing woodwork, I'm not doing that, I want to do needlework, blah, 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 blah. I want to make costumes. I need to make costumes for my puppets. And so I used to bunk off school every time there was woodwork, PE, and metalwork. But what really made me... I was very unpopular at school, but what made me very popular was one year, I think it was a year before I left, we did Oliver at school, and I was Nancy. I was Nancy, obviously, and And then I become very popular, and I'm not going to tell you how I became very popular, but all I'm saying is I became very popular at school at that point. And so then from being like bullied and beaten up at school, I had a horrible life at school. It was horrendous. I was so glad when I left. I suddenly become, the class sex symbol. I had my own hair, which was sort of shoulder length anyway, because it was the 70s. And I dyed it red, because that's how she had it in the movie. My mother went crazy. What have you done to your hair? I bleached it and my head was burning like crazy, and then I put henna on it. It was orange. And my hair was sort of curly, and I looked like the lion from The Wizard of Oz. I had to pile it all on top. Loads of makeup out here. And the time I took my makeup on, my head was the size of a ping pong ball, but I had that much makeup on. And and I absolutely, and I guess that was my first kind of journey into dressing up as a woman to earn money. I mean, I rephrased that. Although I was earning money, it was only 50p, man. But it was as a living. I became a female.
As a performer.
Yeah, some people would say female impersonator. I don't consider myself a female impersonator because no females would ever act the way I act on stage unless they were a prostitute. So other than that, can I say that in a Panto thing? Not really.
Of course you can.
Okay. And so that's what really started the ball rolling. I think it was the enjoyment of playing Nancy and Oliver that made me think, well, yes, I could do a drag act. And that's where that came from. One thing led to another, and I eventually got into pantomime in the 80s, early 80s.
What was that first panto?
It was Cinderella at the Forum Theatre in Wythenshawe. I'd just done a television programme that was nominated for a BAFTA, which was about my life as a drag artist for Channel 4. From there, I went into EastEnders, and from EastEnders, I was asked to be in a tour of the Rocky Horror Show. And when I was in the Rocky Horror Show playing Frank, I'm out with a guy called Paul Kerrison, who later on became a big West End director. When he left Rocky in order to go and be the artistic director of the Forum Theatre in Wythenshawe in Manchester, and he was putting on these marvellous productions of Sondheim musicals like Sweeney, Todd and Follies and Pacific Overtures. And this one year I got a phone call and he just said, look, I'm doing Panto, do you want to do it? And I said, I'd love to. Because he was in the tour, I think I just said he was playing Riff Raff in the tour of Rocky, and we became really, really good friends, and we were so naughty together, really. And I don't mean like that. I mean, we used to get drunk before we go on stage, the pair of us, and we'd make up our own lines. I remember at one point he said to me, "Pick up your skirts and run," and I couldn't remember. I thought that line was not written for the Rocky Horror Show, but there's one scene where I'm whipping him with a whip and he's going, "Oh, harder, I'm loving it. And we just used to make, we were terrible, really. And we became really good mates. And from there I did 6 pantos for him in a row in the Forum Theatre, and then he went on to become the artistic director of the Oldham Coliseum Theatre, and I did another 6 there for him. And then he went on to become the artistic director of the Leicester Haymarket. I did 3 there for him because he put me in a musical that he'd written called Hot Stuff, which toured and went into the West End. So that was my last panto for him then. And then I started spreading my wings a bit and working in other venues and other theatres, doing pantomime, yeah. So I think this is coming up this Christmas, I think it's my 23rd, can't remember. I'll have to sit down and think about it. It's 23rd, it's 20-something, I know that.
Have you ever wanted to play the part of yourself in a pantomime without donning a frock?
You mean doing it out of drag? Like not doing a dame?
Not doing a dame.
Like being a villain or something?
Oh.
Yeah, the nearest I got to... no. To be honest, I don't really. It's very odd. I don't know if it's the woman deep inside me that says it, but all the parts I've ever wanted to play on stage in any pantomime or musical have always been women. There's no real men's parts that I would like to play, other than saying that. I would like to play the MC in Cabaret. I would like to play the mother in, although it's drag, in Hairspray. And I would like to play the tranny, what's her name? Bernadette in Priscilla. They're my 3 kind of lovely roles I'd like to play. My biggest thing I wanted to play was Frank in the Rocky Horror Show. I've done that now. But now all the parts I want to play are women. I want to play Madame Rose in Gypsy. I want to play Sweeney Todd, Mrs. Lovett. I want to play Miss Hannigan in Annie. Those are the parts I'd like to play. I don't really enjoy playing men's parts too much unless they're raving homos or dress up as women, to be honest. So that's the answer to that. No is the answer. No, not really.
Okay.
I can't see me as Ebenezer or, one of those of boring Baronard up thankless characters.
I could see you as an Ebenezer.
No, not unless it was full drag. I did do for Kerrison one year. We did do, because we were running out of pantos, and he said to me, "What do you want to do?" Because he spoke like that. "What do you want to do next year, dear?" And I say, "I don't really know. I'd like to do Peter Pan, but I don't like there's no dame in it." And in those days, there was no dame in Peter Pan. I mean, they put Mrs. Smee in now, which I'm sure, what's his name, J.M. Barry's spinning in his grave. But so what we did was, my cats just walked in. What we did was, oh, you're honoured. What we did was, we did Peter Pan, and I played Carlotta Hook, the Queen of the Pirates. So although I played the villain, I was dressed as a principal boy. I had the tights on, the boots, the little doublet, the big hat and all the feathers, and the wig, but I had the hook. So I was like a dame of Captain Hook, which worked. She was the Queen of the Pirates, Carlotta Hook, the name was. So we did a lot of that. So I guess I could play, Auntie Ebenezer, maybe. Maybe instead of a wicked uncle, you could have a wicked auntie. Especially in these days, it's like everyone's like, it used to be King Rat, King Rat, King Rat. Now it's Queen Rat. You get a lot of Queen Rat. And I believe Walkman is playing, in Cinderella, is playing the fairy godmother. So I don't see any reason why not, to be honest. I've never really agreed with female boys. I don't know what it is. I'll tell you what it is. I did Aladdin. Where was it? In Oldham. And a friend of mine, Amanda Noor, lovely girl, was Aladdin. I've never really agreed. I never really understood women playing boys, right? She got all the legs out, and the bosoms and everything. And she's singing a love duet with the Princess Droopy Draws, whatever she's called, round a pond, round a fountain, they're holding hands. And then some kid shouts out, I can't say, "Effing lesbians," at the top of his voice. He couldn't have been older than 10. And I thought, that's why. And I think it's because when you're in drag, playing an ugly sister or a dame, you're funny and you're a clown. But when you're a girl playing a boy, you're serious. And I don't buy it. I've never bought it. I remember when I was 6, I went to see Cinderella with my mum and my dad, and Prince Charming was a girl, and she was obviously a girl, and Buttons was a boy. And Cinderella pushed Buttons away in order to go off with the prince, who was a girl. And I said to my mum, why Cinderella run off with a woman, married a woman, when she loves Buttons, who's a man? And my mum said, it's tradition. And I didn't get it. And I've never got it since, really. So for me, I've never really understood or liked girls playing boys, because as a child, it really confused me. And people ask me why I grew up gay. Now they know. Watching, So it's not a tradition I like, to be honest. And this day and age, you rarely see it. I've not seen it for years. I know that... I think Susie McKenna, who does the pantos for that lovely little theatre in London, Hackney Empire, yeah. I know she pretty much does Prince Charming Dandini every year. And that's great, because she's a traditionalist and she likes, to keep things traditional. Not for me. It doesn't really work for me. I don't buy it. And in this day and age, I don't think kids buy it either. So there you go. Someone said to me, it's for the dads. I think, I don't get it. It's for the dads. Dads have got plenty. Go home and watch porn or something. Don't go to a panto, and expect some leggy, busty girl to come out as Dick Whittington, It don't wash for me, I'm afraid. Anyway, next question.
That wasn't the answer I was expecting, but there we go.
What was the answer you were expecting?
I could imagine you playing yourself in a serious kind of theatre role.
I could do that. I could play, if it was it would have to be a character. I don't think I'm a good enough actor that would want to play anything. I don't know. I see me playing things like paedophiles or someone that's raped someone. I can always see me playing some horrible, nasty, pervy kind of character. I don't know why, because I have no desire to play anything like that ever. But I can't see me being cast as anything else. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But that's how I sort of see myself as a man on stage in a serious drama. I couldn't see me playing Police Detective Smith or Doctor Who or someone's love interest.
I don't know. I reckon you'd be a good Doctor Who, actually.
Oh, maybe at a push, in full drag, maybe. Well, look, they've had a man Doctor Who, they've had a woman Doctor Who. Why can't they have a tranny Doctor Who? I know that trannies are not a very acceptable word this day, but that's the word I grew up with, so I don't really know any other. But I don't know what they call it. I don't know what they call them these days. Yeah, whatever. I'm not really. I think with me, I need a mask. I think I love acting, but I need a mask, and that drag covers up my insecurities as a performer, as a man. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. So I think I could. I remember when I was on EastEnders, and a lot of it I was in drag as a drag artist, but a lot of it I was as a guy, and when I was playing me as the guy, I wasn't as confident as a performer as I was when I was in the full drag. I had something to hide behind.
Do you think that vulnerability in a character could be exploited and transferred from yourself?
It probably could, but I don't think I'd want to go there. I'm not very good with vulnerable. I like to think I'm tough and that I can cope, and I don't think I could play in those kind of roles. I would have to play something that was tough or nasty. I'm a better villain than I'm a good guy. I think most nice people, and I'm sure Anita Dobson will back me up here, and Bernie Clifton, most nice people play baddies really well. I like playing. I think that's why I don't like dropping name, but as I said earlier, I'm a friend of Paul O'Grady's, and he always plays baddies in Pantos. I don't know why, because he's such a national treasure. And, you know, he one year I saw him play the fairy godfather in Cinderella in Birmingham, and he was great. But, a lot of nice people like to play bad guys. It's easier as well, and it's much more fun. So I would rather play someone in a drama that was really horrible than someone that was really nice.
People won't talk to you in the supermarket either, will they?
Good, that suits me fine. That suits me fine. When I was in EastEnders, I played a nice character and people pestered me constantly, day and night, supermarkets, on buses, everything, and I hated it. And I know that a lot of people like Leslie Grantham, who played Dirty Den, I know people used to leave him alone, and that's great. That's great. Anyway.
Going back into being a little child, and you were doing the pantomimes with the puppets.
Yeah.
What kind of shows were you putting on then? Do you remember?
Oh God, the first one we did was Aladdin, and it was myself and my brother and my cousin Karen, who lived next door, and we had hand puppets, and I made them all out of paper mache. And then the following year we progressed to string puppets, because at that time there was a company called Pelham Puppets, and you could buy Pelham Puppets. In fact, I've still got some in the corner over there behind me. And I used to cut the strings off all of them and redress them, and then restring them. And then we all had characters that we played, and it was really mimed along. I had this Music for Pleasure album, an all-star cast of Cinderella, and we would put that on, and we would mimic what was going on with the puppets in front of the little puppet theatre, and that would be our soundtrack, so we didn't have to physically speak. And we used to charge the neighbours, as I said, 5p to come in. They'd all come in, watch them. But yeah. Oh, and I was a sucker for detail. The scenery had to be perfect, and staircases, and I couldn't fathom out how we were going to make a puppet prince put the shoe on Cinderella's foot. So we sort of had it already on, and I put a string on the bottom of her skirt and hiked her skirt up, and there was her foot with the shoe on. But no, I've always had puppetry of any kind, really. Hand puppets, string puppets, yeah, and because it's what's kind of started me off wanting to perform myself, I think. Yeah.
And the audiences, the children?
Adults, mostly, with their
Was
kids.
it adults?
Yeah, I used to force them to come in. The kids were 5p, the adults were 10. But if they brought a kid with them, they would get him for 5p as well. But if they come by themselves, 10p. But I mean, I was from quite a close-knit community. So everyone knew everyone in our town, and so I think they'd just come and humour me, and also because I used to pester them, I'd never let it go. I'd never ever let it go. I was always banging on the door saying, "You've got to come and see, we're doing Cinderella now. You'll love it. Lovely sisters, oh, you'll love it. Fairy godmother." And I would just pester the neighbours to come and see the show. And I think 9 times out of 10, they just come to shut me up.
But did they love it, really?
Did they love it? I think they liked the fact that I was so precocious and I was so in their face. You know, you must come and see this. It's the most marvellous thing ever. I was very precocious. At this point, viewers, the cat's running all over the pair of us. What are you doing? Get down.
She's a gorgeous little thing.
He. Yeah, he's a boy. Look.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, they're swinging. They're swinging from behind, love. Yeah, he used to stray. He just came in one day and hasn't gone away. That's 5 weeks ago. So, because he's spoiled. He'll be up and down like a horse draws now. And watch his claws. They'll get into you.
They're fine.
He's spot rotten. But anyway. Oh, yes. He loves that. Come and sit here and behave yourself.
That's all I need in my face, isn't
it?
Indeed.
Come on. He'll sit here on this cushion. He'll settle in a minute. He's just saying hello.
I like him to bits. Really
he's
do.
Gorgeous. He's a sweetie. There you go. He's called Max. There you go. Right.
You don't know where it came from?
No idea. We've made inquiries on Facebook, and he's known. Apparently, he was a stray in a place called Staley Bridge, which is about 6 miles from here. Someone adopted him. He came in. He ate and left. And this went on for a while. And then another family adopted him. And they had other cats, and he ate and left. But he's come in, ate, and he stayed. So he sleeps up on my bed. He's purring now. Or wherever he wants. He gets spoilt rotten, gets treats, gets fish, gets tuna, gets bits of ham, which he shouldn't really. But no, he's spoilt rotten. So, and he's so. And when we first met him, he was horrible. He was like Bill Sykes. He had a big cut in his eye. He was all dirty. He's filthy, rotten, dirty. And now he's more like Nancy. He's definitely a gay man's cat now. But anyway, next question. You can edit that. Next question.
You said you didn't enjoy drama school.
No.
Or drama college. Was it drama school, drama college?
It was drama college, yeah. I left school and I went there. There was too much theory and not enough practice. It was all talk about Shakespeare and talk about this and not actually getting up and doing anything. And also I was bullied there as well because there was a guy, I think his name, I won't mention his name because he might listen, but there was this guy there who was a bully and he didn't like me because I was popular with the girls, obviously being gay and that, and they used to sniff around me. In those days, being gay was quite novel. You know, there wasn't many of us around, but there were, but most of them were hidden. I never hid. And he didn't like it that I was popular with the girls and he wasn't, because he was a bit of a Jack the Lad and he was horrible to me, did horrible things, and he was another reason I left, really, because I couldn't stand the bullying. But I'm glad I did, because if I hadn't have done, I probably wouldn't have carved the career that I've had now. I've always worked and it's great and I love what I do, but I would never have had that because I was forced into doing something to earn money, and it was the drag. It was easy.
And was that late 70s, the drag?
It was mid-70s. 1975. I was about 17 when I started. Yeah. It was good. I was very determined as well. I was absolutely determined that I was going to make something of this, especially when I won the contest. And I thought, right, now I've got to get off my backside and work
hard. What was the contest?
It was a drag competition in a pub. And the first prize was £100, which in those days was a lot of money, and a year's bookings at the venue. So I won it, and that was my prize. And then I thought, right, this gives me an opportunity to get an act together, and I'm going to have to change it if I'm here every week. I can't do the same thing. So the £100 the £100 prize money I spent on a huge wardrobe of costumes, which £100 in those days was a lot of money. I mean, I know my father at the time was working, he was on something like 19 quid a week in his job. So I was earning 100 quid. And it was, as I say, it was a lot. And I just got an act together. I went around to all the other drag bars and all the other drag clubs, see all the other acts to make sure that I didn't clash. I didn't want to be like everybody else. I wanted to be different. And I was quite punky in my day. I did a lot of things that other people didn't do. When everyone else was doing Shirley Bassey and Judy Garland, I was doing Lena Lovitch and Kate Bush. So I was more poppy than classical, I suppose.
Did you find you fitted in well within the drag community?
Yeah, they sort of took to me. It was nice because in those days, unlike today, a lot of other acts would always help you out. You'd always, someone would say, well, oh, I found this number which I think is perfect for you. It's not right for me, but it's perfect for you. Or if you need a wig done, go to so-and-so, they're dead cheap. And don't go there, they're too expensive. If you want a dress made, let me know, I'll help you. It was all like that in those days. You know, where can I buy a size 10 shoe? Or go blah, blah, blah. But now, the drag queens today won't give you the steam of their piss, quite frankly. Which, and I put it all down to this, I won't go into it, but I absolutely despise RuPaul's Drag Race. I think what it's done for the UK drag scene is terrible. But that's another story. We're talking about Panto, anyway.
You can tell me about that, because there'll be drag queens listening as well.
I just don't like what it's done. RuPaul, oh, your little cow, she just bit me. That's the first time you've ever done that. I'm talking about the cat. It was a cat that bit me. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. I'm a traditionalist, and I like my drag to be done in a certain way, as a lot of other people of my age group, the drag queens from my age group and maybe a little younger do. And in my day, there wasn't many drag queens around. There was probably no more than 50 in the country, and the London drag scene in the 70s and 80s there was a lot of venues. So we were working 7 nights a week, probably doubling up at weekends, because he used to do the Black Cap in Camden Town in London, used to do a Saturday afternoon, and most gay bars in those days did a Sunday afternoon, and there was also nightclubs on a Saturday night after you did a pub. So you could work 8 times a week if you wanted to. And if you were popular, you did, and I became very popular when I did as Channel 4 TV programme was talking about earlier, and also EastEnders. So that helped an awful lot when it comes to getting bookings. But RuPaul, I don't know, they've got it in their head that anyone can be a drag queen. It's everyone's right, you know, to be who you want to be, and love everybody, and you know, this is sort of like hearts and flowers, rose-tinted world that the whole RuPaul drags thing is, which I don't agree with it. You know, there's little performance going on. It's all about how they look. It's about strutting up and down the runway, and it's all down to all the drag queens contour, and they make up the same, and they went the brown on the forehead and the white on the nose and all this. And I just don't. It's fine. It's not for me. And you know, God forbid if I put on Facebook or anything anywhere else that I don't like RuPaul, I get these 20-year-old kids telling me I'm bitter and I'm jealous and all the rest of it. And I think, do you know what? I've had a 44-year career. I don't need to be told by you that I'm jealous and bitter. I'm certainly not, because I want to see where you guys are in 40 years' time and see what you're doing then. Will you still be doing this? I very much doubt it. So to me, it's all about longevity. I'm not bitter. I'm not jealous. I just despise the programme. I just can't bear it. And I think because I do drag, and it's about drag, people think I should like it and that I should support them. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, and I don't support them. Because I'm gay, because I do drag, it doesn't mean that I have the property of the gay community stamped on my back. You know, I'm my own individual person with my own ideas and my own likes and dislikes. And if I happen to dislike RuPaul Drag Race, that's my business. I'm not going to pander to other people's egos. I won't do that. And that's that. And if they don't like it, it's too bad. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Next question. You bit me.
What was it like then back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s for the scene? And
it was crazy. It was crazy. Oh, God, what was it like? It was wonderful, in fact. I'm just telling him the standard of drag was very high, and we had an unwritten law in those days that if you did a number, because most of the acts in those days were mime acts, they used to lip sync, which I did also, and if you did a number in your act, it was an unwritten law that no other act would just nick it and do it. That was your number. And someone come along and they nicked someone's number once, and I know it was, I can't say, and then all hell let loose. Drag queens were kicking off left, right and centre. That's my number. There was fights, arguments. And then that law kind of fizzled away, that sort of unwritten law that we respect each other's acts and we don't do each other's numbers. And now everyone does everyone's. There's like 20 acts and there's like 20 drag queens and one act. Everyone does the same now. I did a number. I was the first to do this number in the early 80s called What Makes a Man a Man. It was unheard of that you took your makeup off on stage and turned back. I literally stripped off out of my dress, took all my makeup and wig off, put my jeans and my T-shirt off, stuffed all my dress and my wig into a holdall and walked off and never came back for a bow. And it was unheard of. And I remember the first time I ever did it and the applause, it was at the Black Cap and it was about 1977 and the applause was deafening. I never had anything like it. And because I had a big following in those days. And now everyone does it and everyone, it's like the main part of their act now. But I was the first and, you know, I pride myself in the fact I was the first to do that. So although it was brilliant, and the drag queens were great. We would get together as groups and put on pantomimes at Christmas. And like, you know, the top 6 names in the country would get together, or in London rather. I don't want to generalise. Would get together and put on a pantomime and take it around all the pubs and clubs and the gay pubs and clubs. And it was great. And I took over a bar called the Union Tavern in Camberwell. And we used to put on musicals. We used to do musicals. We did Annie, the Rocky Horror Show, Sweeney, Todd, Cats. We did lots of different musicals, all mimed, but all, the whole show, all done by drag queens. It was great. And then at one point, I think we did, The Boyfriend in a theatre live. It was a big deal. And I think there was about 8 or 9 of the top drag queens got together with some dancers and we put this show on. And then the guy that wrote it, whose name escapes me, I think his name was Sandy Dennis, he came to the theatre and stopped it. He stopped it. He said, I'm not having my show ridiculed like this. And so we never put it on. And we rehearsed it for like 8 weeks or something. And it was great. But, you know, we paid for copyright, you know, we got a license to do it, but as the writer, he has the say. So he pulled it because he thought we were ridiculing it. And we weren't. It was a really nice tribute to the show. But, you know, that's showbiz. But, you know, as I say, the drag scene then, there was so much of it and everyone's excited to do something new, you know, something would come on TV and you say, oh my God, that would make a good skit, let's do that. Let's do Mr. Slocum from Are You Being Served? And let's do Gladys from Heidi High and Gladys and Peggy. And there was so much material, source material that we could just kind of lift off the TV, would sit there with our tape recorders going, shit's on now. And we would record it with a microphone up against the telly like this. And because we didn't have the technology then. We just have the mic and a reel-to-reel going round and we record it and then edit it all and we'd have this fabulous show, you know. We'd take great chunks of Disney movies and mix them up. We were kind of like, we saw ourselves as pioneers, I think. We did things that no one else would ever dare to do because we could, so we did. But now everyone just nicks everyone else's material, so... Or they mime to a Mariah Carey or a Madonna record or a Tina Turner and think that's good enough. But in my day, we did lots of editing in the studio and chopped bits and pieces up to make a little story and to make a something completely different and new that no one had ever seen. But these days, as I say, they just see something on TV. Oh, let's do Beyonce. Yeah, all right. So they go out and get a leotard and do single ladies and that's their act. And to me, it's like lazy. It's lazy drag.
You ever thought about spending more time writing pantomime?
I've written 3 pantomimes that have all been staged by companies. Cinderella, which is my favourite, Snow White and Dick Whittington. And I'm in the process of writing for a company for this year's Sleeping Beauty. Not my favourite panto, but yeah, I love writing. I prefer writing and directing to performing. I did a lot of directing with a company called the Central Space Theatre Company, and I also directed stuff for the Elgiva Theatre in Chesham at one point. In 1997, I was there for a year. And I love writing, but yeah, I would definitely. But I like to put a little twist on them if I can. In my Cinderella, there isn't a Baron Hardup. He's a professor, and he invents things, and everything he invents goes wrong, and he eventually invents the machine that fixes Cinderella's glass slipper that the stepmother's broken. So he saves the day. So I like to put a little twist, on things. Not make it quite as traditional. Play around with the characters a bit. Yeah. I've also written a gay pantomime in rhyming couplets, Cinderella and the Sleeping Prince, which is a mixture of... Cinderetti and the Sleeping Prince, which is a mixture of Cinderella and the Sleeping Beauty, but Cinderetti is kind of like the Cinderella character, and the prince is the Princess Aurora. He's like... And they mix together, and that worked really well as well. So I do a lot of writing. We also did a version of The Wizard of Oz, which was I was obsessed with 70s horror movies like Carrie and things like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I mixed it in with The Wizard of Oz, and this pantomime was called Nightmare on Emerald City, and it was like a horror version of The Wizard of Oz, and it went down like a bucket of cold sick. It wasn't very well received. It was a bit gory. But I loved it. I wasn't in it. I directed it and wrote it, but we had so much blood in it. There's blood everywhere. It was great. Sweeney Todd's my favourite musical, so that will give you an idea as to the sort of things I like.
You wouldn't fancy a role in Sweeney Todd?
Oddly enough, this very Friday night, I'm in a show at the Oldham Coliseum, which is called A Night of Halloween and Horror, and the whole show is opened with a Sweeney Todd section. And my friend Mark Stewart Wood, who was in Britain's Got Talent, is playing Sweeney Todd, and I'm playing Mrs. Lovett. So I'm looking forward to it. This coming Friday, yeah.
You don't fancy being a Sweeney Todd?
No, Mrs. Lovett for me all the way. I'm not Sweeney Todd. I'm too fat. I'm too camp. I'm not. Mind you, Michael Ball did it. So no, I'm not. I'm not Sweeney Todd material, I'm afraid. I'm definitely Mrs. Lovett material. And I'm just really having a good time doing it. We're doing 3 numbers from the show. And, trying to get your tongue around them words. Nightmare. But I love it. I can't wait. I'm really excited. See, and that's the sort of ambition sort of ticked. I might not be doing the whole show, but I'm doing some of it. So that's ticked. So, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Yeah, it's my favourite show, Sweeney Todd, as I said, and Mrs. Lovett is my favourite character in my favourite show. So it's a joy for me. I can't wait.
What was the name then of your creation, your drag creation?
What's the what?
What was the name of your drag creation?
I never had the thing is, in my era, we didn't have stupid names like, I don't know, what they call it, Chantilly Lace and all this crap they call themselves now. We were definitely men and we had male names. People like Tommy Osborne, Danny LaRue, Mark Christian, Dave Lynn. We had men's names. We didn't call ourselves, Misunderstood or all this rubbish, which I personally don't like, because it's like that. As I said, the whole RuPaul thing. They've all got. You never see any of them going with boys' names. Chad Michaels, I guess that's the difference. But there's not many that have boys' names, and it's got into a different feel. You never forgot in our day that we were men in dresses. I mean, in my act, I never used to wear any bosoms, for instance. I never used to wear padded bras. I used to do it flat-chested and I never shaved my arms or my chest. I mean, my chest isn't that hairy anyway, and it's fairly blonde. But we never let the audience forget that we were men. And now it's hard to even think that they're not women. And to me, that's not drag, that's bordering on something else. Because even our makeup was what I call, it was Panto. And now they're trying so hard to look like and act like women. And we didn't act and look like women. We were a different breed to what the breed that they breed now. And I'm so glad that I'm part of that world and not part of this world. If I'd have been born a lot later, the likelihood of me doing drag was very unlikely, because it's a different world and it's a world I don't like. It's not like the world I came from. And the world I came from was more theatrical, it was more thought through, it was cleverer. And now it's a case of let's contour the hell out of our faces. Let's spend 4 hours getting our makeup on and wear a nice lace front wig and a nice dress and just stand there and sing a song. That'll do. Because the drag now isn't about the act, it's about the look. And the look was never my thing. It was all about the content. So, yeah.
What dames?
I sound bitter, but I'm not. I'm really not.
What dames did you go and see then?
My favourite dames were Danny LaRue, Terry Scott, Julian Orchard. I loved John Inman. He was probably one of the best. Today, Chris Hayward is one of my favourites. Who else do I like? Kerry Dupree, obviously. He's a really good friend of mine. I love his style. It's very Danny LaRue, but he pulls it off. But in my day, I think the first dame I ever saw, big one, was Danny LaRue in Aladdin at the Palladium. And I loved it. And I still remember it, clear as anything. When I was 6, we saw Cinderella. And I cannot remember for the life of me who the dames were. All I remember, they were called Buttercup and Daisy. And one was black hair and wore plaits to the floor. And one was a redhead and was fat. And they were great. And I loved them. And they stuck in my mind. I have no idea who they were. But they were amazing. But the dame is always something I've really enjoyed. And as again, in this day and age, you know, it's every man and woman and dog for themselves. I mean, Chris Hayward a few years ago in Cinderella played the fairy godmother. You know, no one batted an eyelid. It's absolutely fine. So I think tradition now is kind of like not as prominent as it used to be. Really.
Do you think tradition should come back?
No, not really. I think as long as it's entertaining and the kids love it and it's not too over their heads. I'm not one for filth in pantomimes. I'm not one for double entendres too much. I think it's okay, but I don't want to see Dick Whittington and sit through, 2 hours of dick jokes. Doesn't really appeal to me. I think a few's all right for the adults, but for me, I don't care what anyone says, for me, pantomime is for children. And I really quite like this new trendy thing that's going on at the moment for these summer pantomimes and Easter pantomimes. It was something at first I wasn't sure I liked, but I think if it's going to bring kids into the theatre in the summer when they're off school and they get bored and they're stuck on their laptops and their phones all day long, if it's going to bring kids into the theatre, I think that's a good thing because that's how I started. I think I went to the theatre, a place I would never normally go to see a pantomime, and I loved it, and it made me obsessed with the theatre. So I would rather a kid go to the theatre than sit on their phones or laptops all day long. So I think this late tradition seems to be very trendy, as I said, of Easter and summer pantomimes. I think it's great. So traditionally, no, I'm not a purist. I don't really mind too much if dames are played by women. Although I think, for me, I like dames to be men. It's just a personal preference. But as long as it brings kids into the theatre and it's entertaining, it's fun and it's pretty and there's music and colour, I think that is the most important thing, not tradition. I don't mind whether princes are played by boys or women. I don't mind if dames are played by men or women. As long as the show's really good and as long as the kids get it and love it and want to come back, mummy, let's go back for Christmas to see Cinderella at the, you know what I mean? Because I think it gets kids motivated and it gets them off these bloody laptops, as I said,
What makes a good show for you then, as a punter?
As a punter, I can't bear cheap pantos. I can't bear... for me, it's about the present. Number one is the presentation. Amazing costumes and sets. To me, it's like walking through the gates of Disney World. You go into a theatre and the curtain goes up and there it is. Bright lights, bright colours, big frocks, big costumes. Secondly, I think you need to have a really good, strong story that is about the characters and not about the stars of the pantomime. Often stories are pushed to one side to make way for the names, and I think in a way that's wrong. I understand, that the bigger pantomime companies, including the one that I work for every year, we have big names in, but I like a story. So when I go to the theatre and sit and watch a show, I like a story. I like a big, glamorous walk down at the end. I like a good song sheet, a great villain. Those are things that do it for me. And music's important. The right songs as well. I don't like things that are too anal. as far as Panto goes. I don't like things. You needn't raise your eyebrows, love. I don't like. What I mean by that is, I don't like it when. How can I explain this? I guess it is this whole thing about the whole. In my opinion, let's take for instance Cinderella, right? Cinderella. Who's the star of Cinderella? Cinderella. The ugly sisters, the prince. And often you see pantos where the star is Dandini or the star is the fairy godmother. I can't quite get my head around that. But that's fine as well. But for me, as you asked me what I want when I go into the theatre and see a panto, that's what I want. Yeah, those things.
Performing. What's important for you?
Not having many words to learn. Because my memory as I get older is getting worse. Which is what I love about the panto I'm doing this year and did last year. And that was when I was in Cinderella for Kudos a few years back. As an ugly sister, we had loads of words to learn. But working with Anita Dobson as the wicked stepmother, she gets all our lines. So we just go, yes, mum, no, mum, 3 bags full, mum. And that's absolutely fine for me. I think one of the most important things for a dame, especially an ugly sister, is that they should never repeat their costumes. I think every time they come on, they need something different to wear. Which is something I learnt from my friend Kerry Dupree, who is completely obsessed with costumes, always looks amazing. Always looks amazing, never has the minimum of 10 costumes in a show. And I remember being peeved last year because we had to wear one costume twice. And I was a bit peeved. I felt a bit weird. I thought, this isn't right that I'm wearing this again. But it's fine. But yeah, for me, the more costumes I've got as a dame, the better I enjoy the performance. Yeah. And I like to have a good song. What's very important as an ugly sister is that you get on with your sister. And I've done Cinderella God knows how many times. And I think there's only been 1, 2, 3 occasions that I've got on with my sister. If you don't get on with your sister, it's not a good balance. You have to have balance when you're with your other sister. If you don't have that balance, it ain't going to work.
Do you think the audience can tell?
Yeah, I think so. Because there's always one that's going to be better than the other one, and they should be equally as good for completely different reasons. In my eyes, I think there should be like a fat one and a skinny one, or there should be a stupid one and an intelligent, evil one. But they should never be the same, and they should always complement one another, in my opinion. And I go as far as saying the costumes as well. You know, if one comes on as a battleship, you can't have the other one coming on as a flower. For instance, they have to complement one another. You know, I remember I've seen lots and lots and lots. One Palladium panto I saw years ago with Hugh Lloyd and Terry Scott. Their ball dresses were white satin, beautiful ball dresses, big white wigs. But one had on his head London, a Tower Bridge, and the other one had on Big Ben. So they match in my eyes, but you can't have one coming on as a swan and the other one coming on as, I don't know, a deck of playing cards. You've got to complement each other. And so, as I said, I've been very lucky on 3 occasions of the 8 or 9 times I've done Cinderella, where I've really seen eye to eye with my sister when we get it. And I always usually play the nasty one opposite a stupid one. But when I worked with Kerry in 2017 at the Hippodrome in Birmingham, he was the nasty evil one and I was the stupid one, and my God did I enjoy it more. It's so much more fun being the daft sister than being the nasty sister. I enjoyed playing the daft one. Last year I was a nasty one, this year I'm the nasty one, so gone back to being nasty.
And what about your dame? What's your dame like?
I don't like it. I like playing villains. I've done pretty much them all. The only panto I've never done is Jack and the Beanstalk. But I've done everyone else. I've done Mother Goose. I've done them all. And in some instances, I've done dames. I've done villains that aren't normally played in drag. Like Captain Hook in Peter Pan. I did it in drag one year as Carlotta Hook, the Pirate Queen, which I loved. But I've done Widow Twankey and I've done Sarah the Cook. And I just feel like a fake. I just feel wrong coming out, dressed as a battleship and going, hello, boys and girls.
You prefer
I'm Sarah the cook, and I've looked everywhere for Dick, and I can't find him anywhere. I'm not good at that. I feel like a phony. I'd rather come out and get booed and say, shut your gobs. Do you know what I mean? As a sister or whatever. I played the Wicked Queen in Snow White, which I adored, and I've done that once, and twice I was the Wicked Fairy in Sleeping Beauty, which I loved. But being good, not really my cup of tea. In saying that, I would love to play the fairy godmother in Cinderella. I don't know why. I just got this thing. I would love to swan on and listen. I don't know why. I think I'd get a lot of laughs. But I don't like those kind of traditional dames. For me, not really my cup of tea. Although I love the costumes. I love the ridiculousness of those things. I've seen Kerry come out as a fish bowl with a fish in it, and I've seen him come out as a washing machine and all sorts of things. And when we did Cinders together, because he designed all our costumes, they were marvellous. I was a wardrobe, I was a lamp that lit up, I was a bumblebee, I was a flower pot, and I loved these. I was traffic lights. It was crazy. I love them crazy costumes as opposed to sailing out an after of feathers. It's not my idea of a good time either. The more stupid I look, the better. But I like being bad. I'm not a good goodie.
Do you remember the very first time that you got booed on stage?
Yeah, I do.
Intentionally.
So it only ever was intentional, I'll have you know. Let me think. Yeah, it was the first panto I ever did, and it was my very first entrance. It was my first panto with Cinderella in 1986 at the Forum in Wythenshawe, and we were called Listerine and Valderma with the sisters. I was Listerine. The actor that played Valderma had never done it before, and we didn't really get on. I won't mention his names. He knows who he is. But we didn't get on. We didn't get on because he didn't want to do any costume changes. He was one of those, I'm an actor and I only do this for Christmas to earn a bit of money. And this is my first panto, and I was excited, and I wanted the big frocks, like with a big boat on my head, and I wanted all that, and he didn't. He couldn't be asked, and I thought, well, you're doing the wrong job, love. You should be Baron Art up or Buttons or something. You're not an ugly sister. And he didn't want to put makeup on. He put a little amount of makeup. It took me hours to put all mine on, the full lashes and the big gob and everything. And no, it wasn't interested. So again, it was a perfect example of us not balancing. But yeah, I remember the very first time I sailed on, and they all started, the second we walked on, quick, here comes the sisters. And we walked on, they started booing us straight away. And even though, I learned all my lines, and the second they started booing me, my instant thing was to go, oh, shut up, shut your gobs, who you booing, shut. And I was just improvising for 20 minutes, shut your gobs, and all this, and it was great, I loved it. And the director said to me, keep it in, it's great. So yeah, I do remember that, it's clear as a bell, and I loved it. I loved them getting boos and all blowing raspberries at them back and all this, and I loved it. I love all that, it's great. If you can get booed, you're doing your job right, So that's nice. But I also like to be liked. So as much as I like to be evil, I also like to be liked. I think a lot of the villains that I've played in pantos have been anti-heroes, like Fagin in Oliver or Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show. They're villains and you're not meant to like them, but you do. So luckily for me, I've had writers that have written me villainous roles that are funny. So, and that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. So you get the best of both worlds then. Yeah.
Do you like a matinee?
I like a matinee. I don't mind a matinee because it's not the case of liking it. Do I like it? Yeah, I don't mind it. I do. I don't mind 2 shows a day, but in my early days we did 3, 10:30 in the morning, which was school coach loads of kids screaming your heads off. And when you've been out the night before with Fairy Godmother and Buttons and you've got hangover, the last thing you want to do is come in at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, boo! You should go, F off. Well, obviously you don't. But luckily as an ugly sister, you can do that. But you can't, if you're the Fairy Godmother and you've got hangover, you've still got to wave your wand and do your transformation. But, yeah, all right, 12 o'clock, whatever. But Yeah, I don't mind matinees. I like kids product. I like the kids shows.
Do you like the energy from the kids?
Yeah, it's a completely different energy from the adults. And I've often worked with many a comic who hates matinees because he don't get the laughs. But it don't bother me. Because as long as I'm booed and as long as people are laughing at me or laughing with me, I don't mind whether they're kids or adults, and I don't mind whether it's a matinee or an evening. It's the early morning ones I don't like, but luckily we don't do them anymore. I know places that do, but if I'm told when I'm asked to do Panto, it's 3 shows a day, I go, no, you're all right, love, thanks a lot, but not for me this year. I won't be doing 3 again. No, those are over, those days. In my youth, yes, when I had the energy, but not anymore. Not anymore when I'm an old woman.
You showed me earlier on that you feature quite heavily in Paul O'Grady's book.
Yeah.
How did your friendship start with Paul then?
Ooh, well, in the early 80s, I used to... there used to be a pub in Camden in North London called the Black Cap. And every Saturday afternoon during the summer, they had a drag competition. And I was at the peak of my career then. I'd done a lot of TV and I was very well liked and was very popular. And myself and the 3 other drag queens judged the talent competition. The same talent competition that I entered years earlier and won, which was nice. And one of the contestants was this skinny Liverpudlian person called Jean Savage. And Jean Savage came on in a pair of brown leather shorts, a white shirt and a whip, and did a mime to a number called Lesbian Butch Dyke, and kept wicking this whip around, and he was quite bad. And I remember the 3 of us sitting there like the judges from the X Factor going, this one's terrible, he'll never make anything of himself. And it turned out to be Paul O'Grady. Anyway, we became really good friends because I said to him, because in those days that's what you did, I said, look dear, you've got a lot of potential. If you ever need anything, here's my phone number, give us a shout. I've got plenty of wigs I don't need. I can help you with costumes, anything. Because that's what we did in them days. You paid it forward. That's what you did. It was unwritten law. You just helped each other. Because being gay in those days was still very taboo. And, the gay pubs were popping up all over the place, and every gay pub had drag on. And, he wanted to make a career of it, and I wanted to help him. So we became very firm friends, and then I put him in my act, and we were called David Dale and the Playgirls. There was 3 of us, him and his partner and me. And then the David Dale got dropped and we became the London Playgirls. And then one thing led to another, and I went off and did theatre. He went off and did stand-up comedy at the Edinburgh Festival, and before you know it, he's a big star on TV, and I'm, on the streets with a bucket selling Big Issue. So, no, that's a lie. But no, so he's done, really, really well, from little acorns, as they say. But, yeah, that's it. And we're still friends now, so it's good. All 35 years we've known each other.
Have you done Panto together?
We did a drag Panto together. We've never done a theatre Panto together. We've done quite a few. As I was saying earlier, in those days the drag queens all used to get together, and we did Cinderella. We were the Ugly Sisters. We had a great time. It's hilarious. And then we did the Wizard of Oz. I was the Lion, he was the Witch. And what else did we do? Did we do another one? Sleeping Beauty. He was the bad fairy, I was the good fairy. So... yeah, those are the only pantos we've done together, but they were drag pantos, and they were in the days before I worked in the theatre and before he was famous. So we used to trek them all around every gay venue in the country, and the costumes and everything were huge. We had our own bits of scenery we put up, and it was mad. I don't even know. We did it for peanuts. We did it purely for the love of it, and it was great, great fun. And he was so much fun to work with. We just used to laugh our way through it, the pair of us. It was great. Yeah.
Costumes-wise then, we've touched on it previously. Are you one of these dames that hoards?
Would you like to come up into my attic?
Oh. There's an offer.
That may answer your question. Yes, I'm a hoarder. Definitely, yeah. I've still got costumes in my attic that I wore in 1989, because what happened in those days was if you did rep theatre, which we did, I would always say to the costume, I always get in with the costume department, me, I always go, oh God, these are gorgeous. What are you doing with them afterwards? Just store them? Oh, no. I said, can I buy them from you? Yes. So every year I would buy my costumes and they're in the attic. And every year, some years I hire them out, some years I use them. This year they're hired out. But yeah, I'm a hoarder. I'm a terrible hoarder. I've got stuff in my attic that I wore in the 70s. I've got costumes that me and Savage and the other guy, David, in our act, who's no longer with us, sadly. I've got costumes that the three of us wore still upstairs. You know, they won't go anywhere near me now, but I won't chuck anything out. Everything's written down that I have. I know exactly where it is. Hats, wigs. I must have 200 or 300 wigs sitting up there, in bags and headdresses and feathers and bleh. Yeah, I'm a hoarder. Yeah, not as much as Cody Dupree, but because we are so different, we are worlds apart. Mine's chucked in a bag, his is washed, hanging over on a hanger with a bag over it. So we're kind of, but I'm definitely a hoarder. Yeah. I could. If you said to me now, could you costume a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? I'll go, yep, no problem. I'll just pop up, get them out. So yeah, I've got dwarf costumes, blah, 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 everything. And also I put on my own productions. So I've got stuff that I've had made for productions, which I've kept upstairs. Yeah.
Have you ever turned your hand to making?
I do make, I just don't like to. I'm a rusher. Everything has to be rushed. I make dolls, celebrity dolls as a sideline, which has turned into a very lucrative business. So I make miniature costumes for all them, and I find that easy. But making them to fit people are harder, so I tend not to. I was a resident theatre director at a venue called the Cosmopolitan in Jersey, and I used to make all the costumes for the show for that, and it used to drive me crazy, and I swore when I left there I'd never make another costume, and I haven't. I make headdresses. I like making headdresses because what you can do with a glue gun and a piece of foam rubber is not anyone's business. But costumes, no, I don't make anymore. I design, but I don't make. I'd rather go to someone and say, could you make me this? Yes, thank you very much.
Well, I've got sitting opposite me right now a lovely little Freddie Mercury doll that you said needs to be shipped very soon.
Yes, the reason I haven't put it on, I normally put all my dolls that I make on Facebook. The reason I haven't is because that is for a present for somebody, not from me, but from the customer. And if I put it on Facebook, you'll see it. So once it's put in the box, shipped, and the guy's seen it, then I will present it on Facebook, because that's where I do most of my business, on Facebook. I love it. I love making the dolls. It's a real pleasure, and when you see people's faces when they get hold of them, it's lovely. And the compliments I get is just so nice, keeps me going. You know, some people need, performers need applause as oxygen. I need praise from my dolls to keep me going. So yeah, I love making them.
When did that start then?
When did that started? Just over a year ago. I found myself destitute. Something happened, which meant, I won't go into details because it's very, very personal, but something happened where I found myself with completely no money. And I'm not ashamed to talk about this. A lot of people would, but I'm not. I was completely destitute. I didn't have a penny, and it was a long way off to Panto. This was in the March, and there was no gigs coming in because I'd been off the drag scene since 2002, working abroad and working all around different places. I started off at the Cosmopolitan Club in Jersey. I was there for 5 years, and I went there from Manchester to the Birdcage. I was there for 5 years. Then I went back to Jersey for 3 years. Then I went to Gran Canaria until 2018. And when I came back, trying to get work on the drag scene was very difficult because places were really booked up months in advance. There was a lot of venues that hadn't heard of me. My name had sort of slid away into oblivion. So trying to sell yourself again is very, very hard. And I was really pushed for cash, and I thought, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So turning the clock back a bit, I was in a relationship for 19 years with my partner David, and we were on holiday, in the early 80s in San Francisco, and I saw this doll in a shop window that I really liked, and it was about that big, it's about 2 foot tall, and it was a doll of Liza Minnelli, and I've always been a massive Liza Minnelli fanatic, collected anything to do with Liza Minnelli, and I fell in love with this doll. I think it's because of my love of puppets, I fell in love with this doll. And it was ridiculous. It was something like $425, which in those days was a lot of money. It would have meant I would spend all our holiday savings spending money on this silly doll. So when I got back to, I've always been good at arts and crafts and things, and my partner David said to me, why don't you make one? See if you can make one. And I thought, okay. So I made one, and I loved it, and it was on display in our home for a long, long time. It was people used to come around and talk about it. Oh, where'd you get that from? I made it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, sometime later in the mid-90s, David contracted a brain tumour and he died. We were together 19 years, and I completely went to pieces. I had a nervous breakdown. I tried to commit suicide. Everything was horrendous. And I found myself going to see a counsellor, and then after a year of counselling, I found myself in group therapy. And still I was distraught. Still I wasn't myself. And I got friendly with one of the guys in group therapy, whose name completely escapes me, I'm sad to say. And he said to me, you need to find yourself a hobby. Anyway, we became good friends, and he came over to my house one day, and he saw the Liza Minnelli doll. And he said, where'd you get that from? I said, I made it. And he said, really? I said, yeah. He said, you should make more and focus your mind and your energy on something completely different to take your mind off David. So I did, and once I started, I couldn't stop. I just kept making them. Anyway, forward to 2018, I found myself destitute, and I was looking at my Liza Minnelli doll one day, which was on display in this flat, and I thought, oh my God, I wonder if I could sell these. So I started selling them. And then I put them on Facebook, and people saying, oh God, these are marvellous. Could you make me this? Could you make me that? A year down the line, I've made 117 of these dolls, charging between 90 and 125 quid. And I put it all down to the fact that if it wasn't for David, I would never have made these dolls in the first place. And so they're kind of a tribute to him, but also they are my main focus now of my income. I do make the dolls more than I perform in drag now. And now I'm 60. I still love performing, but my focus and my business lies on the doll making now. And what I would say, if someone said to me, what do you do as a job? I'd say, I make dolls. But I still do the drag, and I still do the panto. I'm in a trio now. There's 3 of us. We're called Friends of Dorothy. We're always working. It's great fun. But most of my energy and time is spent on the doll making. So that's how it came about. So, yeah.
And the joy you're bringing to people with, like, this gift, the Freddie Mercury gift.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't make dolls and say I have a Betty Davis doll for sale or a Freddie Mercury. I take commissions and I rise to the challenge. And I have no idea where this came from. As I said, I've always been good at arts and crafts, but I've got no artistic streak in our family whatsoever. Performing, yes, my mother and my auntie during the war, the Second War, my aunt, before I was carrying on the Boer War, my auntie was known as Southend's Vera Lynn. My mum played the piano and my auntie sung, and they would work on the pier in Southend and in pubs and that. And prior to that, my great-great-grandmother was a dancer in Old Time Musical, and a bit of a floozy, as I understand, which I love the fact that I've got prostitution running through my veins in my family. I love that. I love that my great-grandmother was a bit of a floozy, you know. I love it. I could just see an hand, you know, the basque and the stockings with the legs wide open. What? I could just sing it now. I bet she was a redhead as well. I like to think she was a redhead. So I don't know where my artistic streak came from as far as the dolls go. I seem to look at a photograph and I can recreate that face using modelling clay, and it came from nowhere. And I didn't realise I could do it. I had no idea I could do it, none at all. And I love it. I love a challenge. If someone says to me, can you do this? I thought, oh my God. The worst one ever was someone said to me, could you do Joe Longthorne? And I find that I have to be a fan of someone to be able to do them well. And I was never really a fan. So I made this doll, and the suit looked great. He had a little suit on, the bow tie and everything. But the face, it looked, one minute it looked like Paul O'Grady, and then it looked like Bruce Forsyth. And I had to keep remaking it and remaking it. I made this doll about 4 times. I thought, this is driving me crazy. I couldn't get my head around it. And eventually I found a picture on Facebook. And I thought, oh, maybe I can copy that. That might be easier. Because I was trying to do almost like a Madame Tussauds tribute, as opposed to a cartoony kind of thing. And eventually I got it, and the woman that I made it for was very happy with it. But and I put on Facebook, I'm happy to make any dolls, but no Joe Longthorns. No Joe Longthorns. I'm not doing another Freddie Mercury. I will, but not in that costume, because that jacket was a nightmare to make. It's the yellow one. All you viewers out there that can't see this, it's got the famous yellow jacket on that he wears, all the buckles and studs. Never again. I do Freddie Mercury in I Want to Break Free or Bohemian Rhapsody, but never in that outfit.
With a Hoover.
With the Hoover, little toy Hoover. Yeah, I'm happy to do that, but no. No, but I love making them. And as you say, they bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. So it's an honour, really, to be able to do them. Didn't even know I could do it, but there you go.
I loved your hinge and bracket.
Did you indeed?
They were
Thank
lovely.
you. I loved the hinge and bracket ones. I was so proud of them. And what made it even nicer was a friend of mine sent a picture of them to George Logan, who plays Evadne. And he loved them. So that was because I was a huge fan of hinge and bracket when I was a kid. Oh my God. I absolutely loved them. I still love them. And any opportunity I get to watch or listen to them, I do. And I think that's what helped with the figures, because I wanted them to be good, and I spent a lot of time on them. And I was very proud of those ones.
So how can people find your dolls on Facebook?
If they just go on David Dale on Facebook, and then you look into my photograph albums, you'll see an album called Diva Dollies. Those are all the dollars I've made up to now. And I just literally take commissions. I'm taking no more this year because I've got 70 odd to make. 50 of those are for Christmas. Oh my God. So when you leave, I'm going to carry on with my Marlene Dietrich. And then I've got Marilyn Monroe to do. I've got the Queen. I've got 2 Maggie Thatchers. I've got, oh God, there's no end. There's some really weird choices, really weird ones. Who else? Oh, there's just loads. Pete Burns, Danny LaRue, as a man and in drag. Dick Emery. The cast of the Golden Girls. Oh, there's loads, endless amounts. I also have private commissions. I've got like, when I say private commissions, I mean people that aren't famous. I've got a wedding. Someone sent me a wedding picture of a bride and groom. It was her son and his wife. I've got to do them for Christmas. So yeah, there's loads, and I love them. Love doing them. Yeah.
Do you wish you'd started doing them years ago?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Although I don't regret. I have no regrets of anything I've ever done on stage. I wouldn't have ever not done drag. I've always done it. As I said, I've always worked. I wish I realised I could have done them. I mean, I did them when Dave died, which was 22 years ago, and I've kept some of them. They're in my cupboard in my bedroom because there's nowhere to display them. But yeah, they mean a lot to me. My private collection mean a lot to me because they remind me of him. Because without him, I would never have made it in the first place. So yeah, especially the Liza one. I didn't sell the Liza one. That one I kept. But some of the others I did. I always thought, wouldn't it have been wonderful if Carry On Stars did a Panto? I always could imagine. I would love to have cast a Carry On Cinderella or something. It would have been great. Because they used to do those Carry On Christmases on the telly quite often. Because I work with Barbara Windsor, and she is just the best person in the world to work with. She's so funny. I can't remember where I was. I think it might have been Bristol, but I don't think it was. It was such a long time ago. It would come to me in a minute. I've always been quite good with wigs. And she was fairy godmother. I was ugly sister. She comes to me. Opening night, she knocks on her dress rehearsal, bangs on the door. Can I come in? So you come in. See this fucking wig they'd given me. And it was awful. And they scraped it back like this, and it was like that. And I said, you can't wear that, dear. It's awful. So I'm fucking what I'm going to do with this fucking thing. I said, give us it here. Sit down. Oh, do you mind, darling? I said, no, I don't mind. Sit here. So she parked her Uber and I put the wig on. I said, I pulled 2 bits out. I said, hold on to that. Don't let go. Hold it. So I'm back combing and farting and fiddling. And I chucked a handful of glitter in it and sprayed it. And it looked divine. It was her normal style, twiddly bit. Oh, she loved it. She kept calling me her hairdresser after that. David done me hair. David done me hair. David done me hair. And she said to, I don't know, I can't remember the director even, she said to the director, she said, do you like me? Do you like me hair, love? And he said, yes, it's lovely. She goes, well, it's not the fucking thing you gave me. David done this for me. If it weren't for him, I'd go out looking a right fucker. I was going, oh, okay, right. One's kids sitting there everywhere. Effing Block, she's hilarious. She's absolutely hilarious. And it's so sad that she's got dementia now, hasn't she? I love Barbara Windsor. I always wanted to meet her. And then one year I did this Panto, First Family, and they said, no, well, it's Paul Elliott. And they said to me, I said, who's in it? They went, Barbara Windsor. I went, oh, you're kidding me. Barbara Windsor, I love Barbara Windsor. No, I can't work with Barbara Windsor. I won't be able to work. I won't be able to look at her. Because I loved her. Only because of the carry-ons. I loved her. This is way before she was in EastEnders. And, she was boner. I loved her. I even stuck sequins on a dress for her because she had this sort of fairy dress on. It was a bit blank. And I had a bag full of rhinestones. I don't know why. I used to stick them on my face, that's right. And I just stuck them on the dress for her. I said, do you want that tighten up a bit, Barbara? Oh, I'd love to. It's a bit drab, innit? I went, yeah, give us it here. So I've got some glue out. Rhinestones all over her dress. Oh, look at me now, like Danny LaRue. She's too much. Fucking can't do. No, I love her. She's going on. Sad.
Who are your favourite people then that you've worked with over the years?
Anita Dobson, definitely, without any hesitation. You mean like in Panto?
Panto, yeah.
Anita Dobson is just my favourite, without a doubt. I love her to bits. We're doing it again together. We did last year. We're doing it again this year. I'm so excited. Bernie Clifton again last year and this year, playing Baron Ardup. Just wonderful. 83 years old, jumping around like a 10-year-old. Got the voice of an angel. Just a gentleman. Real pro. Lovely, lovely, lovely man. Adore him. John Challis. Did Dick Whittington with him. When I played Sarah the Cook, which I hated. But he kept me going, and his wife especially. Louis Spenk. I loved him. He is so funny, but he gets bored quickly. I did Cinderella with him at the Palace, the Opera House in Manchester in 2011. Suzanne Shaw, absolute sweetheart. Done Cinderella with her twice, Cinderella. Danny Mack, who was on Strictly Come Dancing. He was one of Prince one year. He's lovely, really sweet guy. Kai Owen, oh God, he's divine. Kai Owen was on, what was that spin-off Doctor Who thing?
Torchwood.
Yes, he was on that. Welsh actor. And he saved me actually from Dick Whittington because I absolutely hated it. I think it's because I hated playing Sarah the Cook. And that was my first Kudos Panto as well. I didn't enjoy it. Which is a shame, really. But he sort of saved me. He became a mate in that, and he was lush. Who else? Barbara Windsor, goes without saying. But I think if I had to pick my all-time favourite, it would definitely be Anita Dobson. Definitely. Because I think it's because we're friends as well. It's so easy. And she's she always tries to make me laugh on stage. She'd do a line to me and she'd do it cross-eyed like that. And she'd know I'd start laughing because I'm the world's biggest giggler. But, yeah, those are the people that really stick in my head, to be honest. There's been a few celebrities, I won't mention any names, who are absolutely despised, but I won't say who they are, obviously, to protect the guilty.
Did they make it difficult for you then?
I think some of it has to do with ego and the fact that I find with a lot of the celebrities, if they've sort of been around the block a bit and they're sort of, should we say, on their way out, they feel they have something to prove, and so they start getting a bit divish and making demands and throwing their weight around, and I can't be dealing with all that because at the end of the day we're all in the same boat, so I can't be dealing with that. And not only that, I find a lot of these reality stars, they're the worst, really. I've worked with a couple of reality stars. They're about as real as a plastic Barbie. That's how real they are. But I won't mention any names. I think anyone that's in Panto, it's a hard graft. A lot of actors poo-poo Panto away, and it annoys me. I can't bear actors that say, oh, darling, it's only Panto, or it's a job for Christmas, it's only money. And I know people that, they live for pantomime, it's their world. And why not? Because it's such a lovely thing to be a part of. I've been working for Kudos now. This is my 4th Panto for them. As I say, the first one I didn't have a good time with. They didn't book me after that for a few years. And then they started booking me again in 2017 when I stood in for someone at the last minute. And I've been working for them ever since. And to be part of that stable is such an honour, because it's Kudos to me. They are like the pinnacle of pantomime entertainment. They always get it right. They always cast right. It always looks good. They've got the best people that do the musical arrangements. They have the best costume makers, the best costume designers, and it's an honour really to be part of that group. So yeah. I think we all want to work people that get it. I don't like people that come in and look at Panto as just something to do over Christmas to earn a few bucks, really. Either do it and be dedicated to it, or don't bother. Make way for people that are dedicated to it and do want to do it. Doing Panto is not easy. It's like you don't normally get more than 10 days to 2 weeks rehearsal if you're lucky, and you're putting on a full-scale musical. It's not just, dressing up as a fairy and waving a wand. You've got a ton of lines to learn. You've got to be funny. You've got to be sincere. You've got mental costume changes that are really quick and cumbersome and awkward to wear. There's a ton of scenery. There's the most awkward props, beanstalks, caves, flying genies, flying bloody children, Peter Pan, crocodiles, all sorts of things you have to contend with. You've got 2 weeks to put it on, 2 weeks, sometimes less. And how they manage to do it in such a short space of time completely baffles me. And somehow, on that day opens, there it is. It's all done, it's finished, it's ready. I don't know how they do it. I just don't know how they do it. So yeah, I do like working with people that want to get it right. Otherwise, don't do it. Leave it to someone that does want to do it. There's plenty of people out there that want to do Panto. I know a ton of people that every year say to me, could you let Kudos know about me? Or could you if I send you some stuff, would you put a word in for me? You just can't do that. Kudos know who they want, and they know who they don't want, and they have a stable of performers that they use, and it's so difficult to get your foot in the door. It is. But once you've got your foot in the door, it's an honour. To me, it feels like I can't wait for Christmas to come quick enough, mate, just to get out there, and because you're getting paid a good wage for having so much fun. Well, a lot of people do that for free. It's a joy, really. You don't have to worry about anything. Like if you say, oh God, I've ladded my tights, don't worry, I'll get you a new pair. All the heel's gone on my shoe, don't worry, I'll fix it. Everything's done. Weeks are done. The only thing you've got to do is learn your lines, put your makeup on and go out there and do it. In the world that I'm from, when you are the drag world, you have to make your costumes, do your wigs, get your shoes, buy your tights, do your makeup, you have to do everything. You have to be your own choreographer, your own musical director, your own costumier, your own wig master. You have to do everything. But when you get that privilege of going to a theatre once a year and performing for four or 5 weeks, or in the case of Birmingham, 7 long weeks, it's a joy. And when it's over, all I want is for the next one to happen. I can't wait for the following year.
Do you get the blues?
I do, yeah. I get post-Panto blues, something shocking. I go really quiet for a week or so, and the only way the thing that I found that works for me, and this sounds so blasé, but it's the only thing that works for me. The second the Panto finishes, I have to go on holiday somewhere. The past 2 years I've gone on a cruise straight after Panto, and it helps me take the mind off the fact that I'm not doing the Panto anymore. I get really upset. Last year I cried, and I've never done that before. I don't know why I did. It was just, we were such a good company. Often when you do Panto or any musical or any theatre thing, there's always seems to be one bad apple. But last year, none. Everyone was divine. Everyone, the MD, all the dressers, all the cast, the dancers, everyone was just lovely, and that's rare. There's always someone moaning about somebody. Oh, he did such and such, or oh, he come on late, or blah, 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 or he upstaged me, or he making up his own lines. There's always something. But last year, there was none of that, and we pretty much got the same cast this year. So I'm sort of hoping we're not going to get it again. So that's nice. So from last year, there was myself and Tommy Osborne, who played the Ugly Sisters, and there's Anita, who is the stepmother, Bernie is the Baron, and Martin James, who plays Buttons. We're all together again. So that's like the hard-up family, pretty much, other than Cinderella. So I'm looking forward to working with them guys again. They're nice, and we have a laugh. You've got to have a laugh. There's no laugh, no point doing it, really. I'm just sipping my coffee, everybody. Viewers,
Do you get the nerves?
terrible. Yeah,
You come across so confident.
I do, but it's all an act. And I tell you why I get the nerves. Because of this production I did of Dick Whittington in 2008, there were certain things going on which I wasn't happy with. And I was on stage and I dried for the first time in my life. I forgot my lines. And the sweat just poured down out my wig, right into my eye, down my neck. And I felt like I was stood there for an hour. And it was literally 20 seconds. Like, couldn't remember what it was. Luckily, Kai Owen flew on and saved me. But and since then, I'm always scared I'm going to forget my lines. Since every show I've done since, I'm scared I'm going to forget my lines. And when I stood in, when I did Cinderella in 2017, and I stood in at the last moment for the sister that was no longer there, as I say, I had a week's rehearsal, and we had this very, very complicated scene at the ball with Matt Slack and Kerry Dupree. Kerry was my other sister, and Matt Slack was Buttons, and it was a play on words. And my God, could I get it right? Could I buffalo? And for the first couple of rehearsals, first couple of shows, I just completely fluffed it. And then I eventually had to write the words in the palm of my hand. I'm stood on stage like this going, oh, and blah, 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 oh, blah, blah, blah. Eventually I got it, but I still wrote the words in my hands for fear that I was going to forget it. And I never looked at my hand once after that, but I still wrote the words because it was like a security blanket. So that's why I get nervous. I don't get nervous about performing. I get nervous that I'm going to forget lines. And my other sister last year, Tommy Osborne, I hope he's listening. Tommy Osborne, I hope you're listening. He forgot his lines. And we stood down and I literally said, it's your line, dear, it's your line. And it came back to him. Very funny story, actually, about forgetting lines. I was working with Louis Spence in Cinderella at the Opera House in Manchester in 2011. And he was Dandini, and myself and my friend Drew Christie were the Ugly Sisters. And Louis forgot his line. And he looked at me and he said, it's your line, dear. On stage in front of the whole audience. I said, no, it's not my line, dear. It's your line, dear. He said, it's not my line, dear. It's your line, dear. I said, it's not my line, dear. And then he looked at my other sister and said, is it your line, dear? And Drew said, it's not my line, dear. It's your line. And this went on for about 10 minutes. And until Louis could get it back into his head what his line was. And eventually I said to him, the line is blah, 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 blah. And he went, oh, that's right, dear. You're right. It was me. And we got a big round of applause. Anyway, the director said to me afterwards, come back and said, you've got to keep that in. You three have got to keep that, and it's hilarious. I said, we can't keep it in. We were ad-libbing, we're just making it up. We can't keep it in. Anyway, we didn't keep it in. But it went on forever. And then it just got ridiculous, and it was like, are you sure it's not your line? No. Well, he just said that. Now, aren't you supposed to say this after that? No, I'm not meant to say that. I meant to say this. But once I've said this, you're supposed to say that, but you never said that. So he said that instead. Because he said that instead, it's thrown me completely. We missed out a page of dialogue. So you've got to go back and say this. And that's how it went. And it was like three queens on stage having a conversation about who said what. And it was ridiculous. And the audience are going, what the hell's... And eventually, when he got round to his line and he went, oh, it is me, you're right, all along it was me, got a massive round of applause. It was crazy. But we only did it the once, because you can only do that sort of thing once. That's the thing you can only get away with in pantomime. You couldn't do it in, you know, Romeo and Juliet. No. Romeo, what's your line, dear? No, it's not, it's your line, dear. No, it doesn't work. Wouldn't work.
Do you like it then when organically things come about?
Oh, God, yes. I love it when silly things happen.
Even in the rehearsal room as well, when you're meeting people for the first time.
Yeah, I remember going up to John Challis and asking who he was. This felt so ridiculous. Because I'd never seen Only Fools and Horses. I'd never, ever seen it. And I didn't know who he was. And when they said you're doing Panto with Kai Owen and John Challis, I went, oh, great, I didn't have a clue who either of them was. And then on the first day, you know, you go around and introduce yourself. I said, hello, what's your name? He said, I'm John Challis. I went, oh, hello. I felt so stupid. But, you know, that's what I'm a bit like... I do put my foot in it a lot. I'm a typical Sagittarian. I'm always saying and doing the wrong things I don't mean to. I'm a sort of person who'll go up to a blind man and say, see what I mean? See what I mean? And I'm just stupid like that. But I do things, crazy things like that. We had, I don't mind if something generally goes wrong, but I don't like it when I don't like corpsing. I had to tell my sister off in... the Louis Spence version of Cinderella. And at one night we were at the ball, we were fanning and we had this line and he flicked his fan and the whole thing broke and concertina to the floor. And everyone, we was hysterical. It just, you couldn't have planned it. It was just so funny. And he said to me, oh, I'm going to put that in tomorrow. I said, you can't do it again. It's not going to be funny the second time round. Yeah, it would be a different audience. I said, but it won't be organic. I said, when you flicked it and it broke, it genuinely broke and we all reacted on the fact it broke. You can't do it again, expect us all to react the same way. He said, oh no, I'm going to keep it in, So the next night he picks up his broken fan and he concertinas it all back together and he holds it like this. And on the same point he goes and throws it to the floor. And he went, ah, 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 ah. And I went, and it just wasn't funny because it was a planned thing. And he tried to make it work. And eventually I said, you know what? I'm going to hide his fan. So we had a prop table and it's all sellotape, gaffer taped off in, you know, Cinderella's shoe, rat, lizard, fan, sister's fans. I took his fan, I put it in the bin. I said, he ain't going to do that again. He ain't going to get away with it. So I went to the prop room and said, have you got a new fan here? He's broke his fan. He's got another fan. And he went to flick it to break, and it was obviously it was fixed. So he's going like that and nothing's happening. So, but I thought, no, I'm not having this. I had to take the ball into my own hands at this. I had to take the ball by the horns at this point and say, no, it's not going to happen. Drew, if you're listening, I'm really sorry. He's probably not listening. He's a clairvoyant now. He probably knows what I'm saying anyway. So. It's fine.
What's your advice then to young drag acts?
Don't bother.
Really?
Yeah. There's no work anymore. There used to be a ton of work and there isn't anymore. I think if you want to put a dress on and, you know, put a nice wig on, a nice dress, and that's completely up to you. But if you're thinking about doing a drag act and looking for bookings, I would say don't bother. But, you know, there are those people out there who are determined and there are people that are talented. In my experience over the past, I'd say 10 years, the acts I've seen are pretty much awful. But there are one or two that come through the sieve at the other end that are good. But there's not many, I've got to say. There's not many that I've seen these days that I've liked. And I'll probably get, you know, slagged off for that, but I don't care. You know, I'm entitled to my opinion as an audience member. I've seen acts that I've not liked. I've seen more that I haven't liked than I have. So unless you've got something new to bring to the table, unless you're different, original, and have... Oops, that's my phone. If you're different and original and have something new to bring to the table, go ahead. And if you're determined, like I was in the 70s, go ahead. If you're just like, you just like to put a dress and a wig on and think that the world owes you a living, please don't bother. That's all I'm saying. Because there's a lot of them out there. A lot.
And what about future dames?
I don't think drag and being a dame should be put in the same sentence, really. I think a lot of drag queens don't particularly make good dames. I know a lot of drag acts that do panto every year and they adapt. Like my drag act is nothing like me as a dame. And a lot of my friends who are drag artists that do Dame, I can name a few names, Jason Sutton, Dave Lynn, Lola Lasagna. They are completely different. Kerry Dupree. They are completely different as a dame than they are as a drag performer. Being a drag performer and being a pantomime dame are as different as being a policeman and a traffic warden. They are along the same lines, but completely different. The attitude's different. The performance level is different.
So what would be your advice then to an actual aspiring dames?
I've got a friend that we met on Facebook, and he hasn't done it much. He's a lovely guy. His name's Jamie Riding. He's probably listening to this because he's, like yourself, he's a huge Panto fan. Again, another guy that works with puppets. He does a Punch and Judy show in the summer, and he's never really done pro dame before. This year is his first production as a Panto dame professional, I think. Correct me, Jamie, if I'm wrong. He's the most lovely guy. He's completely dedicated. Spends all his money on getting fabulous costumes together, fabulous wigs together. He's a real good traditional dame. Why he hasn't got work before, I do not know. He's much better than me. Definitely better than me. As a traditional kind of, Mother Goosey kind of widow twanky. He's great. But what made him get it is just his determination and his love. I think you have to have a love for pantomime in order to want to be a dame. I would hate to think he was one of those people that said, or anyone that said, oh, it's just a job at Christmas. I think to be a good Panto dame, you've got to love Panto. You've got to, and you've got to understand Panto. You can't just stand in and go, hello, everybody, have you seen my son Aladdin? There's more to it than that. You've got to be completely dedicated. And, as I say, Jamie is just an absolute sweetheart. He's only young, but he's got such a long way to go. And if there was more people like him around, I think the whole Panto world wouldn't have problems with dames. I know many Pantos where I've seen dames and they're shocking. Awful, and they are men in dresses, and that's fine, but at least play the character, at least play the mum, play the dame, play the nurse, the cook, or wherever it is you're playing, play the character. Don't just sail out in a frock and think, I can get away with it because it's Panto, and play the part. And that's what I admire about people like Jamie. They haven't been doing it long, but the love and the passion shines through, and you can see it in the performance, and to me, that's where it lies, in the performance. So if you've got that urge and you've got that dedication, you've got that love and indeed that patience, then go for it. That's what I say to anyone aspiring to be a Panto dame. Anyone, straight, gay, whatever, dog, mouse, whatever, alien. Just, you've got to be dedicated to the art of pantomime, because it is an art. It's not just a case of putting a dress on and doing quick changes and saying a few lines and singing a few songs. There's an art to it. And people could take a leaf out of Jamie's book, I think. If you're young and determined, you will get there eventually. As I say, I think I might be wrong. He'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. But I'm sure this is his first pro pantom. Good luck to him, because he deserves it more than anyone I know, I think. He's so dedicated, really. He really is. I'm Breathe, David. Sip of coffee.
He is... I know, Jamie's messaged me times as well.
He's lovely.
He is what
Panto is all about.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And he says he listens to these all the time, and I'm just like, thank you.
Yeah.
He says I love them, and he will message me. He'll be the first one to message me.
Yeah.
Say, this is brilliant. This one had me in tears or whatever.
Yeah.
He gets
it. We've never met. We've only met on Facebook. Never even spoken to him. But he is a complete doll. I mean, he deserves it. Without sounding like, I'm like my father. He reminds me of me when I was his age. I see a lot of me in him. There's this, and I wish I still had that kind of drive. I don't have as much drive as I do. I still love what I do, and I'm still consider myself to be good at what I do. But as you get older, the drive, I think, slightly diminishes somewhat. But with his youth and his determination, God, he reminds me of me so much. I even look at him, he reminds me of me. He's got that same look as me. I love him. I'd love to work with him one day. I would. He's great.
Were your parents supportive then?
Yeah. Absolutely. When I first told my parents I was leaving home to go to London to work in a nightclub to be an impressionist, I told them that I would be doing impersonations of people like Elvis Presley and Tommy Cooper. But what I was actually doing was Liza Minnelli and Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand and Shirley Bassey. But they didn't know this. And when I told my mum I was a drag artist and I was gay, she was very, very upset. I remember slamming her hand, bang, on the door, on the table. She couldn't believe it. She was horrified. My dad, on the other hand, knew. My dad always knew I was gay. And so, but my mum, within, hours, came around to the fact that, you know, we were talking the 70s here when the only gay role models we had were people like Larry Grayson and John Inman, you know, not exactly the most masculine of images. And Dick Henry going, oh, well, honky tonk, how are you? That's what we had. So there was a comparison, obviously. But over the, within a few hours, she came round to the fact that I was gay. She accepted the fact I did drag. She came to see me in pretty much all my shows when I was working in London. She used to come up all the time to see me, proud as punch. My dad died during the run of the Rocky Horror Show in 1984. He had a massive heart attack. He was 64. My mum died in 2002. She had cancer. But she always supported me. They both did. My mum especially. She used to go to jumble sales and find glittery dresses and say, how much for this? And she was a real character. How much for this? That'd be £2. All right, it's not for me. I won't wear this. It's for my son. He's a drag artist. And she let the world know, you know. She was like that. It's not for me. It's my son. He's a drag artist. And she'd turn up with a bag of stuff from a jumble sale that I'd be seen dead in. But it's the thought. You know, she'd say, what size shoe are you again, David? 10. Oh, it's shame, only 9. Can you not force your feet into them? And she'd turn up with these bright green cork clogs from the 70s. And things like that. You know, she was a sweetheart at the moment when it comes to things like that. And I remember when she got cancer, she said to me, I'm not going to do my hair, look. And she went like that. She had a handful of hair. And she said, I thought maybe you can get me one of your wigs. She spoke like that, my mum. And I went, yeah. So I brought a load of wigs in for her. She was very upset because my mum had the most beautiful hair. She was of Spanish descent and she had black curly hair, loads of it. She started losing her hair. And we had a right camp time. Me and my partner at the time come in and I brought a load of sort of like comedy wigs. One was bright pink, one was like a curly green thing. I said, yeah, Mum, try that on. What talking about? I can't wear that, bleeding clown. And all this. Because for a joke, you know, but because my mum was always, but eventually I got her a wig that was exactly the same as her hair and she loved it. In fact, she was buried in it. But she was a character, my mum, when it comes to drag. She was so funny. Oh, things she would do. We went on a cruise once and it was quite a posh cruise at the Royal Caribbean. And my mum's from Essex, Common of the Muck. And she never had much money, my mother, really. And she we were on this cruise and sitting up, at the dinner, you always sat with the same people. And opposite us was an American couple. He was a dentist and that was the wife. And over on this side was, they were American also and they just got married. And there was my mum and me and my partner. And you sat at the same table every night. It was so funny. And she said to this woman, oh, I like your necklace. Where'd you get that from? And she said, oh, it's a family heirloom. They're real emeralds. Mum, I said, oh, they're nice, aren't they? She said, do you like my earrings? And this woman said, yes, they're lovely. She goes, yeah, they're not mine, they're his. She said, I borrowed them from him, he's a drag queen. I could have died, for shame. But she'd tell anyone I was a drag, anyone. Does drag, my son, does drag. He's gay, he's one of those gays. He's a gay. I don't mind till always a gay. He's got a nice boyfriend. But it's drag, he dressed up as a woman. He's very good. He's like Danny LaRue. Nothing like Danny LaRue. But that was the only comparison she had. Danny, that's more like Stanley Baxter, to be honest. But like Danny LaRue. So, yeah, numbers laugh. I laugh.
Well, this leads me to my very last question. Sorry.
It's all right, I'm growing a beard here anyway. It's fine. What's your last question?
Your dream pantomime.
Ooh.
You can be in it. The cast can be alive or dead. You can choose where the production is. And obviously the production.
Well, that sounds like a dream come true. You could have told me I could have prepared.
If you'd been listening to the podcast, you would have.
Don't start me. I'm a very busy woman. I'll have you know. Right, let me think. Well, obviously,
I'm going to show him how to do a podcast.
Right, obviously Cinderella would be my ideal pantomime, 'cause it's the best pantomime because of the magic. Right, okay then. So if we're casting it, I wouldn't want to be in it, but I direct it. Right, the wicked stepmother would be Betty Davis. Definitely. The sisters would be, the fairy godmother would be Bette Midler. Cinderella would probably be someone like Keira Knightley, someone like that. Keira Knightley is her name. Do you know what I mean?
From Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, her. She'd be Cinderella. The prince would be Orlando Bloom, possibly. Might be a bit old now. Possibly Orlando Bloom. Baron Ardup would be... It's not... Baron Ardup, I wouldn't bother with Baron Ardup. A wicked stepmother, we said that, wouldn't we? So the sisters would be... I'm going to go with French and Saunders. The Ugly Sisters, definitely. Who we got left? Dandini. Oh, it could be anyone, really, couldn't it? Dandini would be...
Sorry to any Dandinis out there.
I know. Well, in my production, Dandini would be gay, definitely, because he fancies the prince in my eyes. So it would be somebody like... Graham Norton? Maybe not. Not Graham Norton. And the other one with the teeth and the glasses, that one.
Alan Carr.
Alan Carr, yeah. That would sort of be the cast, I think. Yeah. Did I say Prince Charming? Yeah, sort of Orlando Bloom-ish. Sisters and... No, I think... No, I'm going to go back on that. Okay. The sisters would be me and Paul O'Grady. Just to rekindle our youth. Yeah, that'd be it.
Do you think you'd ever work with Paul O'Grady?
We've worked together before, but it's a different world now, you see, because Paul is like, household name now, and I'm not. I'm sort of just nobody, really. I'm just like, jobbing drag queen. So, and I'm happy with that. There was a time when I wasn't, because during the early 80s, I was the bee's knees. I won loads of awards. I was the #1 drag queen. I won this, that, and the other. Best drag queen of the year, best entertainer, and all that. And Savage kind of knocked me off my throne. And if it had been like an arch enemy, if it had been a drag queen that I couldn't stand, it would have been easy to hate him. But I can't hate Paul because he's one of my best friends. And so it was hard, because he knocked me off my throne and stole the throne and then went on to become what he became, which I'm not jealous or bitter about in any way. I was at the time, but I'm not anymore. I've lived with it and it's fine. And we are, as I said, we're good mates. And so I would never proclaim to be jealous or anything. I just wish him the very best of everything he does. I've always encouraged him. I've always loved him like a brother, really. And so I'm not going to say any I don't have any bad things to say about him. But the likelihood of us ever working together again, equally as Ugly Sisters, I say no. But you never know. There may be the time will come when I'm the dame and he's the wicked squire or something. Do you know what I mean? Should that ever happen, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. It would be a joy to work with Paul again, but I probably wouldn't be able to do it because we would spend the whole time laughing. Because I can't even talk to him on the phone without coming. If any time I'm down, right, I call him and I know within minutes I'm going to be all right again. Because he has a way of cheering me up that no one on this earth I've ever met can do other than him. He's just got funny bones. He can just say, "Hello, Doris," and I'm roaring. That's enough. But he's a sweetheart. And we were having a good chat the other day about RuPaul's Drag Race. Let's not even go there. And, we were howling, the pair of us, just roaring our heads off. But no, I'd love to work with Paul again. I really would. Maybe one day, maybe when QDOS decide that I'm good enough to work at the Palladium. Or when Savage decides he will lower himself and work at some, provincial theatre somewhere where I happen to be the dame. You never know. Let's put it that way. Watch your space. You never know, dear. You never know.
Well, David, thank you so much for taking part.
God, I'm exhausted. I need to lay down now. Care to join me? Well, on that happy note, bye-bye, everybody.